Okay, welcome back. Let's just get right into it. So here we see the beautiful Chef P and her pink sauce. Now I searched YouTube. I'm not signed in, so it's not using like any algorithms or nothing like that I'm not affecting the algorithms. This is just a basic YouTube search pink sauce. You get this food theory. I saw that they didn't have kind things to say about pink sauce. We see the dark truth about the pink sauce. What is the controversy behind pink sauce? What does pink sauce taste like? DIY recipe. After all the drama surrounding. So drama, that's kind of like a little negative connotation. Then we see the second page. Don't eat pink sauce. We tried the viral pink sauce. Throw up emoji. Lady sells pink sauce on TikTok and it's dangerous. I tried pink sauce. Okay. And as we can see, more pretty much negative stuff about the pink sauce. Please don't eat it, so forth. Everybody's going ham on pink sauce.
Leave her alone!
We see she go under life. We got one that looks kind of neutral, just trying the pink sauce scene on TikTok. But they gotta throw the infamous in there though. It's all about connotations. And then FDA, we know about all that. So basically, here we have a young lady trying to grind and make some profit in the system that she was born in. And I'm not excusing nothing if the sauce wasn't approved the way it was supposed to be approved, or if it had ingredients that weren't good, that weren't safe, then that's bad. Then that's not a good thing. Then she should be called out for trying to sell that type of product. But so should General Mills. Right? We go ham on the little entrepreneur trying to do her thing, trying to grind. Let's look at General Mills. Judge Nix's settlement in General Mills case. A federal judge in California has rejected a settlement in a class action suit against General Mills, saying it seems to be structured entirely for the benefit of lawyers in the case and offers consumers next to nothing. The lawsuit, brought by individuals in California, centered on whether General Mills committed fraud by stating that certain of its fruit snacks have no artificial flavors when they in fact contain demalic acid. Under the proposed settlement, the only relief consumers would get is an asterisk on the packaging after the phrase "no artificial flavors," directing them to a website that would inform about the demalic acid. The plaintiff's lawyers, meanwhile, would get $725,000. This says demalic or dimalic acid, but I believe it should say DL malic acid from the research that I've done. Okay, so let's not even waste time talking about the fruit snacks issue, because that's obviously fraudulent. But the deception and the greed really kicks in when you look at them paying the lawyers and not the consumers at all. No compensation there. Collusion is what it sounded like to me. General Mills fruit snack label deal nixed for collusion concern. General Mills Inc. and consumers must rework a false ad settlement that would have required label changes on cartoon fruit snacks but provided no money to class members and $725,000 to their attorneys for fees and costs. Okay, yeah, we see here DL malic acid. Crystal Hillsley, Adrian Morris, and others allege numerous products contain DL malic acid and artificial flavor despite label assurances that they contain no artificial flavors. So that's crazy. Instead of making a change for the better, for the health of their consumers, most of which are children, they offer to give you this super circuitous route to get to a warning about the harmful gamalic acid. The Environmental Working Group responds to General Mills and Quaker Oats. The Environmental Working Group is disappointed that General Mills and the Quaker Oats Company have brushed aside consumer health concerns raised by new research that found the cancer-causing weed killer glyphosate in Quaker old-fashioned oats, Quaker dinosaur egg instant oatmeal, that sounds like oatmeal that a kid would eat, and Cheerios. The companies claim that the levels of glyphosate remain within the regulatory levels set by the Environmental Protection Agency. Below is a statement from EWG President Ken Cook. We are deeply disappointed by the tone-deaf response of General Mills and the Quaker Oats Company to the news that EWG research has found a toxic weed killer in their products at levels of concern to human health, especially the health of kids. Simply stated, there is far too much glyphosate in their products for parents to feel comfortable feeding them to their kids. It is especially disappointing because these two multi-billion-dollar companies can take the simple step of telling their oat farmers to stop using glyphosate as a harvest time desiccant on their crops. That simple step will reduce or eliminate the contamination and ensure the safety of American families that consume their products. The oat products we tested from a number of other companies had glyphosate levels well below our children's health protective benchmark, so it is possible to produce and sell foods that do not contain unsafe levels of glyphosate. They're speaking what I'm thinking, like, y'all got the most money. If it's possible to make the food healthier or less poisonous, at least, if anybody can do it, y'all can do it. So y'all choosing not to do it. They are choosing not to do it. All for profit. That is evil. That is very evil.
But wait! There's more!
General Mills settles Yoplait yogurt lawsuits in $8.5 million settlement. General Mills has agreed to pay $8.5 million to settle a number of lawsuits that claim it made deceptive health claims about its Yoplait YoPlus yogurt. Deceptive. There's that word again. How activists got General Mills to dump its Israeli settlement factory. It states, on May 31st, General Mills announced that it had divested from its business in Israel and would stop making Pillsbury products in an illegal settlement annexed during the 1967 war. The move came after a 2-year campaign by the American Friends Service Committee, which called on consumers to boycott Pillsbury products until they stopped manufacturing on stolen land. In 2020, the United Nations identified General Mills as one of the 112 companies that are violating international law by operating in the occupied territories. So General Mills are just out here wilding, and ain't nobody going ham on them. They still get to make billions. You know, all these people that was going in on Chef P, they don't care. They didn't really care about it being dangerous or not approved. Just doing that for clicks. Even they were doing it just for money. I searched YouTube for General Mills and nothing but positive stuff and cartoons and stuff to the little kids that they don't care about. Also Googled General Mills and it was literally nothing. It was just normal stuff. The General Mills website, the Wikipedia page, stock info, their Twitter, their LinkedIn, their Facebook. We ignore these larger companies, but flex on the smaller companies. Together, we need to flex on the bigger companies because with that power comes accountability. Let's see our first peek behind the curtain, together at least. General Mills. Top 2 stockholders, BlackRock and Vanguard Group Incorporated. Okay. Kraft Heinz and 2 former executives charged with accounting scheme. The Securities and Exchange Commission today publicly charged Kraft Heinz Company with a long-running expense management scheme that violated federal securities laws. The agency also charged 2 former Kraft Heinz executives with misconduct, and Kraft Heinz has agreed to pay a civil penalty of $62 million. Kraft in turn touted these purported savings to the market, which were widely covered by financial analysts.
We lied, we cheated, we steal.
The announcement continued. And it goes on. And I'll have a link to these articles so you can read it more in depth if you want or for yourself. Even they're cheating for clout. They're bragging to the market. $16 million grain trading fine for Kraft Heinz and Mondelez. I'll leave a link to this article. The companies reached a settlement with the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission that was approved by a federal judge May 13th. The CFTC complaint filed in 2015 charges that Mondelez and Kraft Foods, as the company was then known, drove down grain prices by buying a 6-month supply of futures contracts for grain that they never had any intention of actually buying. So they're using their power, using their money to manipulate the grain market basically so they could get it for cheaper. So again, they're cheating for profit. But we going ham on Chef P though. Let's take a look at the main shareholders for Kraft Heinz. Okay, I see Vanguard and BlackRock again at the top. Berkshire Hathaway's got a massive stake in this company. We'll keep that in mind. Keep Berkshire Hathaway in mind. I hope to nauseate you at some point. Like at some point, hopefully you become nauseated. Let's look at the participants to the World Economic Forum. I'll leave a link to that. So we see BlackRock having a lot of ownership in these 2 companies. We got the global head and chief investment officer that attended the World Economic Forum along with the chairman. So these companies have access and money and power and control to be able to sell their products without glyphosate and the malic acid. But they choose not to do that so they can make more money. That is evil. Chef P, she trying to keep up, you know what I'm saying? In one video, my very first video, when I was talking about the good choice, I talked about how the kid wants to be like the parent. So the more people that they're surrounded with that makes the good choice, the easier it is for them to make it themselves. Small business want to be like big business. And big businesses operating like this, like, I'm not condoning smaller businesses doing wrong, but it's phony to like come after that but not come after these people. If you're supposed to be the model for the system, you got to be the model for the system. But that's assumed that the system will be established through the good choice, which it unfortunately has not been. But along with stating that in part 1, I also was talking about how the media companies are all owned by people that attend the World Economic Forum. They have a means to influence through the media outlets. So let's take a look at some of the biggest media outlets. So we got Comcast, Vanguard, BlackRock, Disney, Vanguard, BlackRock. Okay, we got AT&T. Again, we see BlackRock listed. We see Vanguard listed there second. Let's go down our first little rabbit hole. We'll take Morgan Stanley. Let's see who's... Okay, so for Morgan Stanley, Mitsubishi, UFJ, State Street. Keep an eye on State Street. Then we got the usual suspects, third and fourth. But let's keep going. Let's check out Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group. Okay, we got Aristotle Capital Management. We got B of A, Morgan Stanley again. Let's go a little deeper. Okay, Aristotle. This is the listing of their top holdings. We see Microsoft. Okay. Ah, there we go. Vanguard and BlackRock. Together again. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. We'll go back to the media companies. We got Paramount, they're another one of the media conglomerates. Vanguard and BlackRock. News Corp. Vanguard, BlackRock. Slight tangent to T. Rowe Price, who's listed as the largest shareholder in News Corp. Vanguard and BlackRock are the largest shareholders in that. So Vanguard and BlackRock are the largest shareholders of T. Rowe Price, which is the largest shareholder of News Corp. Thomson Reuters. We see Vanguard there. Royal Bank of Canada seems to be the largest shareholder. I don't have a clip here, but I think Vanguard is like the third biggest shareholder for Royal Bank of Canada. So those food industries are primarily held or beholden to funds managed by like all the same people. In the part 1 video, I just wanted to explore that a bit, and that's what I want to do in this supplementary video. Just explore some of the things I said but might not have either given proof of or explored deeper. If we really gonna be outraged or caring about people's health and companies looking out for people's health, we should probably hold the bigger companies to a higher standard. I'm certain that more kids are eating products from General Mills than pinksauce. Another thing I stated in part 1 was that the pharma industry was having an effect on our cognitive development. So I got a review here. These reviews, they're article reviews. So what they do is they take a bunch of articles. In some instances, they start off with like 6,000, and then they, through various factors that get them to answer the question that they are really trying to answer, they get it down to like 100 or 60 research articles. So basically, you don't have to go look at 60 individual research articles. So how effective are pharmaceuticals for cognitive enhancement in healthy adults? A series of meta-analyses of cognitive performance during acute administration of modafinil methylphenidate or MPH and d'amphetamine. Popular interest in cognitive enhancement has increased recently, and there are high user expectations and perceptions of efficacy. People expect it to work more than they expect it not to work. This may partly be driven by media coverage, which suggests that use is widespread among university students. So they're saying that this perception that cognitive enhancing pharmaceuticals work may be partly driven by things in the media that state, when they make it seem commonplace for like university, college students to be using them. I got the big final. It has been suggested that the use of pharmacological cognitive enhancers in competitive academic settings is likely to increase. Similarly, in the wider context of the adult workforce, there's evidence of increasing willingness to experiment with cognitive enhancers in line with increased job market competition and preoccupation with job stability. Okay, and then it states modafinil improved memory updating. There was an overall effect of MPH driven by improvements in recall, sustained attention, and inhibitory control. There were no effects for DAMPH. MPH and modafinil show enhancing effects in specific subdomains of cognition. However, data with these stimulants is far from positive if we consider that effects are small in experiments that do not accurately reflect their actual use in the wider population. There is a user perception that these drugs are effective cognitive enhancers, but this is not supported by the evidence so far. So, just a little recap. That people expect them to work way better than they do, and that could be partly fueled by media coverage, or the media giving them that perception. And it states that, I think one of the most important things is that they're kind of admitting that it's too soon to even know. Like, it's not supported by any evidence so far. Like, there needs to be more done here.
She wasn't ready.
Like, you should know, if the drug that you're selling works, and in what situations it works. Okay, so the second cognitive enhancer that they looked into was MPH, neurological and psychiatric adverse effects of long-term MPH treatment and ADHD, a map of the current evidence. It goes on to say, overall, these findings do not suggest that long-term MPH is unsafe with regard to neuropsychiatric outcomes, and several studies suggest that long-term MPH may reduce depression and suicide in ADHD. Although the evidence suggests an elevated risk of psychosis and tics, case reports describe remission on discontinuation. Caution is advised in specialist groups such as preschool children, those with tics, and adolescents at risk for substance misuse. Conclusion. We conclude that the evidence base regarding both adverse and beneficial neuropsychiatric effects of long-term MPH treatment would be improved by more studies that make use of large longitudinal databases, focus on specific neuropsychiatric outcomes, and compare outcomes from long-term MPH treatment not only with outcomes from other treatments, but also with outcomes following no pharmacological intervention. So even this one, it goes on to find that there's not really any risks that they observed for certain people, but long-term effects need to be monitored because there's not enough evidence to, make good estimates of how somebody might react given their circumstance. We don't have enough information. Or they also suggested that there was an elevated risk of psychosis and tics, but it looks like as long as the MPH was discontinued, then it resolved itself. And the MPH, the most prevalent one is Ritalin, which is manufactured by Novartis. We got Dodge Cox. Let's go down another little rabbit hole. So here we have Dodge and Cox top holdings here. Primary being Occidental Petroleum Corporation. And then we see Charles Schwab, we see Wells Fargo, we see Alphabet, Cigna. Let's keep those in mind. But let's keep going down. Occidental Petroleum Corporation. Okay. We got Berkshire Hathaway, we saw them earlier. We got Vanguard and BlackRock in there in the mix. Any ideas? Who might be the top holders in Berkshire Hathaway? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is Vanguard Group Incorporated and BlackRock Incorporated. Once again, shareholders in everything, in every industry. This is What are we doing? Pharmaceuticals now? I kind of forgot for a second. We're doing pharmaceuticals. We did media. We did a couple in the food processing industry. What if we go back to Occidental? Remember, I want to kind of nauseate you a little bit. I just want to nauseate you just a little bit. Nothing personal. Charles Schwab, Wells Fargo, Alphabet, Cigna, FedEx. Is it sinking in? Like, we continue. We have another article in the Journal of Psychology and Psychotherapy. What they're basically saying is that the drugs only mask the problem, they don't cure it. So like the schema for a dog would be 4 legs, tail, wagging tongue, wagging tail. You know, the shape, the general shape of them that you imagine or see. A bark would be in the schema for a dog. So it's how you think about something. That you can think about that something positively or negatively. So it's saying in instances where somebody has like a negative schema about something, the medication doesn't resolve that. Moving on, we see here something they talk about: hope as a positive example of how significant schema change impacts therapeutic outcomes involves the presence or absence of hope, an underlying perceptual construct. As an early developmental construct, hope involves a cognitive matrix for adaptive information processing. Its absence, on the contrary, suggests the presence of self-perpetuating pathologies. So hope is not something that's like fairy dust. Once you find God within yourself, that hope that comes with that, the umbrella of everything that you get with God, you will see hope in other things as well. Moving on here to where we got the 4 dots. Common antidepressants such as Paxil, Prozac, Celexa, and Effexor are reported to generate central nervous system side effects, including euphoria. This pleasing side effect may be sufficient to neutralize depressive symptoms otherwise generated by residual or dormant dysfunctional attitudes or thoughts. Although many of the symptoms associated with depression have been shown to subside under pharmacological treatment, certain underlying negative thoughts are also known to persist in a temporarily attenuated state outside of euphoria's reach. So that's basically stating that these underlying thoughts lie dormant once the person takes this drug, but it doesn't go away. So let's go back and look at some of those drugs they were talking about. Okay, so the companies that make these drugs are GlaxoSmithKline. We see Dodge and Cox Incorporated. We already went down that hole. That leads right back to Vanguard and BlackRock. We got Pfizer, Vanguard and BlackRock, and Eli Lilly and Company. These people manage, and I'll come back to how they try to spin that. These people manage these funds for all the large companies, basically, in every sector. Here we see a list of some attendees at the World Economic Forum from some of these pharmaceutical companies. Like I said, I have a link with all of them in the description. So all these people are meeting and colluding for their own benefit because they're all controlled ultimately by the same group of people. That's how business works. There's no way you're gonna be, everybody's kind of have a hand in each other's pocket, but you're not trying to line their pockets too. Like they all have the same interests, and all the interests lie with people that are there. Okay, so if we take a look at the most prescribed psychiatric drugs for 2018, we see Zoloft and Xanax leading the way. Those are manufactured by Viatris. Okay, so I want to end this with a few things that I notice when these large companies or conglomerates be trying to spin the facts through fact checking, because remember, they own the media companies as well, or they control them, should I say. That was my bad, and we'll see why in a second. It says fact check video claiming BlackRock and Vanguard own all the biggest corporations in the world is missing context. Notice it doesn't say it's wrong, it says it's missing context. But their verdict is missing context. BlackRock and Vanguard do not own, in quotation marks, all the biggest corporations in the world. They invest trillions of dollars into leading companies on behalf of their clients, who ultimately own the shares. This article was produced by the Reuters fact. Okay, we already know Reuters is owned by them as well, so we saw that already. But notice how they put own in quotations. And that's why I had to correct myself, because technically they're right. But it's not the owning that's the issue, it's the controlling. Like, they might not own all the biggest corporations, but they definitely control them. With the shares comes voting power, veto power, ability to vote for others by proxy, a number of different things that can give you control and not so much ownership. And also, if you're the largest shareholder of a corporation that's your client, like, you're still ultimately in control. This is the people that should be able to deny it the best. These are people that are in that same circle. We know Reuters, we know BlackRock and Vanguard, and all of their clients have a vested interest in Reuters. So they don't outright deny it. This is supposed to be a fact check about the Event 201. Event 201 didn't predict the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'll have links to both of this part here. It says it doesn't tell us much about the COVID-19 outbreak. Event 201 took place just a few months before the initial COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan. This had led some to say that 201, they got the quotation marks again, predicted the current pandemic. However, the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security has said, the Center for Health Security and partners did not make a prediction during our tabletop exercise. For the scenario, we modeled a fictional coronavirus pandemic, but we explicitly stated that it was not a prediction. They're really harping on this prediction thing. They got to predict it in quotation marks because they know that technically they did not predict it, because they planned it. Predicting and planning are not the same thing. You don't have to predict something that you plan. Like, you know what's gonna happen. You're the orchestrator. You know, if you're the one planning the party, you don't have to predict that there's gonna be a party. You know there's gonna be a party. We have to be careful when we see these quotation marks. And the way that we be careful is by being sure of what we're asking, because those quotation marks just mean that they're answering what you ask. So if you ask, do you own all these companies, and they don't technically own them, then they can technically say no and technically be right. That's it for now. I'll see you in part 2. Actually, before I leave, I'm just going to leave these two here just to nauseate you a little bit more.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy? Yippee-ki-yay,